Hi folks, so today I'm bringing you some footage of the recent Italian Nationals that was just held over the weekend. And this was an interesting tournament because it was partly held in person. I think it was in Pescara. You can see here 10 players attended in person, and then the rest of us played online. And this is a few Italians, I'm guessing, who couldn't be there in person, and then the usual suspects that we've seen in most of the online nationals this year. And not the usual field. This time the red line didn't show up, there was only one entry. Also at the bottom Greyjoy and Lannister, that's to be expected in recent times. 3 Night's Watch and 4 Stark entries as well here, so every faction represented, but the 3 top factions actually were Baratheon, nice change, and then Martell with 6 and Targaryen also with 6 at the very top. But as you can see, only 2 Martell Wars and no Martell Lion, which is the deck that won the Canadian Nationals. And 6 different agendas for Targaryen as well, and 5 different for Baratheon. So basically the only decks that had more than one entry were this Stark Fealty and the Night's Watch Valyrian Steel. So 31 entries in total, which I think is the most we've had in these online nationals so far. We'll see if next weekend that number is even higher in Norway. And this is how things ended. So from this part, I guess I can show you the all together. So 3 players made it from the Italian in-person part of the draw into the top 8 cut, and 5 players from the online part. And our king of Swiss was Sargento, playing Stark Fealty, undefeated in the Swiss rounds. Then kantzsot with Lannister Reigns. Third place was Francesco Cirilli, who was one of the organizers, playing an interesting Martell Knights of the Realm deck. It's a deck we don't see very often. And then also from Italy, Diego Di Giovacchino and Paolo Di Giovacchino, playing Targaryen Prince and Stark Fealty respectively. Tamás with Night's Watch Valyrian Steel, as usual. And then I managed to squeeze in with 2 losses in the Swiss rounds with Baratheon Wars, and also Johan with Martell Wars in 8th place. Actually, as you can see, Steven here had a good chance of making it, but he dropped before the last round. It was the middle of the night for him, so I think he was planning to pull out if he wasn't doing well, but even after winning the first 3 games, it was a bit too much for him to continue. Unfortunately, because Martell Battle of the Trident, I think we're all waiting for this agenda to get the first major result, and this might have been it. And then lots of players also with 3 wins, just missing out on the strength of schedule, as you can see here. And some very good players missing out on this occasion as well. Yeah, so finishing in 7th place, I played the 2nd seed, I guess, in the top 8. I recorded all of my games, and then I wasn't planning to record anything else, but I did get some footage of the other top 8 game that was still played after mine finished, and then in the semi-finals I managed to record something from both tables as well. So I wasn't looking forward to this one actually, because as you can see here, I lost in round 4 of Swiss against this Lannister Reigns deck, because it got that Alchemist's Guild hole mainly that was impossible to overcome for me, because my deck relies on Melisandre and the Chef Robert triggers to keep stuff knelt, and Alchemist Guildhall is the best counter because it can trigger in both phases and cancel all my control elements basically, so it was a very tough deck to play against, and it was quite interesting because I saw a card I haven't seen before played against me. The lion still has claws, which is an event that returns something to your hand if the opponent wins, I think an intrigue challenge by 5, and I got one of my charts bounced back to hand, so that I had to claim Robert. It was quite brutal, that game, and I was thinking that this matchup would be difficult if the same cards were seen by my opponent. Well, that being said, let's have a look at this top 8 game. So if you'd like to see my deck, I will link it in the description so that you can basically see what the game plan was here. This is, I think, a good opening hand for me here. So let me just tell you, first of all, that obviously I recorded this without sound originally, so I will just narrate it now as best as I can. And I generally take anything that can get me economy. I have 2 locations here. And then Sir Imri Florent as the lone character is decent enough because I can just open Late Summer Fist to get Robert on the board. Bit of a mess with that Sweet Sleep spoiler. Okay, so this time not that great for my opponent, setting up 2 characters without economy. And I take, of course, the chance to play Robert here with Light Summer Fist. Always hope that my opponents will give me Gates of the Moon with their at the gates, but no luck here. And this is actually almost the same as in the first game. Braun coming out, I think he actually had 3 gold in that game and had 6 strength. And then, as you will see, Sir Lannister also. So this pair of characters that for only, well, you have to bestow Braun, I guess, so for 5 gold they can give you some decent strength. Although on this occasion Braun is only 2 and Lancer is only 4, and then it's tempting to play Milks on these 2 actually, because it basically disables them because they don't have any strength then. But with Cersei and Tywin around, it's tough to waste Milks on these little guys. Okay, so obviously Robert has to be played because this is the high gold plot that can afford it. And then what to do with the rest. So checking the hand first. And yeah, so single treachery, this time no Guildhall, which means once the treachery is played, all the control stuff from Robert and Melisandre can go through, and as you can see I have Cirilli in hand here. And I think it has to be Cersei really. Because she goes quite quickly, she doesn't kneel for the intrigue challenge, so she can trigger Rains quite consistently, and then with heads on spikes. She is also quite quick to gain power. But I do have to leave the milk in hand then if I take Cersei, which means that Robert might get it next round. I try to keep track of these hands when I check them with the Red Priest or Scene in Flames, but it's not so easy most of the time, especially when opponents draw a lot. So no way to get the White Raven with Summerhold this round. So just going for Edric to make sure that Northern encampment can stand. Maybe another option was to play to leave 1 gold to play Scene in Flames. But then there will be some claim taken here, I think. Obviously I would have preferred to keep Cirilli. Yeah, 6 military strength in total, so well, 3 characters actually. I could have defended this, so my opponent doesn't fully commit here. And I have to defend it because I can't claim anything. Obviously I need Edric for dominance before I get the Iron Throne. Imri is super useful to close out games, and the Red Priest would just be giving him Cersei back, which is definitely something I don't want to see. So before I do any challenges, I need to do the calculation if I'm winning dominance, because I've just played my only high gold plot. So I need that encampment for all the other plots, because the most they have is 5 gold. And Shay is basically a free defender because she has another stand here. So I made the calculation that the only way to win dominance is to pass here, and treachery was an option for my opponent, but it's I guess a weird thing to play treachery on, even though it could have messed up my game. And I think we see treachery here. Yeah, to cancel Robert. So this is where I start to have problems, because I have an unprotected key character and no close call, as you can see in the deck, so something like Morghulis kills Robert, brings Cersei back because the Red Priest also dies, and I need to protect it, but then, as I saw when I checked the hand with the Red Priest, there's some good characters, especially Tywin, and decided to target that instead. Well, Milk protects Robert, but it wasn't my choice here, but okay. And now, yeah, Tywin comes in anyway with air, which would have been stopped if I hit him with heads on spikes before that, but okay. So he is in the game now, and there is a dupe in hand as well, so he is not going away. And luckily I draw some needed economy here. Still don't have any proper claim soak, unfortunately. But at least now I don't have to worry about being able to play my cards, and I do have set down our deeds in hand, which provide some good draw. I could trade it here for 4 cards by discarding the 2 from my faction card. However, leaving it in hand means that it could be discarded for claim. You know, Tommen is not a popular character, or not a crucial character usually when you see him in games, because he's unlikely to do much, but I have 2 cards in hand here and intrigue claim still to come, so there is a chance that the hand could be empty, and then I cannot gain any unopposed power. Because even though I'm not trying to gain any real power or anything significant by initiating the challenges, basically the plan is just to kneel as many characters as possible for the Robert trigger to keep them knelt. Unfortunately, my opponent has Shadow, who can participate in multiple challenges here. So possibly not the best plan here to attack at all. And of course, with Summerhall on the board now, the White Raven isn't going anywhere. I cannot stop the Rains trigger here. But it does require my opponent to kneel the high cost characters, which then makes them a good target for Robert to keep them knelt. It's just going for the small intrigue challenge just to get the claim. And here I'm thinking I'm left with no cards, so I may as well trade this one for 2 cards before claim goes through. And in hindsight, if I was going to do that, I should have done it earlier, really, when I had 2 power before the power claim went through. So I would have gotten an additional 2 cards, and my opponent wouldn't have taken the power for claim. Not going for the military here, which I was pleased about, because I don't really want to lose any of these characters that are currently on the board. So not winning dominance this round, but there was no power to be gained for the White Raven because no one has a summer or winter plot, and the encampment is still standing. I decided not to kneel it just in case, because my opponent had a decent board and I wasn't sure whether I could win dominance for sure. And this is not a great trade for me, I suppose, because Shay can stand. So again, I have a board with no dupes, so if Morghulis is played, everything, including Robert, gets killed, and Tywin is duped, so definitely a worry for me. But fortunately, second heads on spikes instead, and it hits nothing significant, and now I can get some cards in hand. So potentially 2 white ravens and the chamber is quite decent. That gets 4 power with dominance, but how do you win dominance? I only have 3 strength 1 characters in hand here, and I do have Edric and that traitor to the crown. And here comes Gregor, so I need to rely on some luck here, because I cannot stop Gregor from winning that military challenge. So if he hits Robert, or even a 3-coster, would be pretty annoying, because that gets rid of my red priest on the board. Okay, so that's 1 high strength character taken care of for dominance, and stops him participating in the power challenge as well. But still no way to defend against Rains, and I can tell you, in the first game that I played in Swiss against this deck, my opponent played Wildfire Assault, even though he had something like 6 characters and I only had 4, just to then be able to play that Lion still has Claws event and bounce an additional character. So I only had Melisandre and Robert on the board, and then I had to claim one of them. So definitely Wildfire Assault here leaves me in a pretty bad spot. This one I cannot defend, and I don't think I need to worry about any triggers from losing by 5, so claiming the reducer, and now relying on some luck here. Hits Delena, which I could have used. My opponent gets rid of Imri, so Imri is a good closer and well worth getting rid of, and he was standing as well, but the other option was Red Priest here to get Cersei back. And here I'm just hoping that my opponent has nothing really great in his Reigns selection here. I was thinking maybe Wildfire coming again, and then some tricks. And Pointy End is a good play. Tywin had 2 attachments, Milk and Traitor to the Crown, and he's now free. He gives the icon bonus, gets his icon back and renown as well. And now with that gold close coming in, that's a free character that will be leaving the board anyway, so it can defend military and be taken for claim. And it can defend power as well. So thinking of Robert here always. And he can participate himself because he always stands regardless of what option you choose. So I was always going to have him do something and then see if my opponent commits. If he commits Tyrion, then it becomes an easy choice to have the high cost characters remain knelt in the standing phase. And this time I do get dominance. And chamber and the 2 white ravens, so that's 5 power swing basically. Just trying to imagine what would be standing if I chose the low cost option here, but I didn't like it. And this is where killing that Imri proves a decent plan, because for instance with Winter Festival, Imri can just sack all the locations and then you can go from 6 to something really big with the 2 ravens and some unopposed. Well, I say unopposed, but obviously we also have to take care of Tommen. So siege preparations does nothing to stop my plan this round, but of course it's an investment for a future round. And there is still plenty to worry about if my opponent sees the right cards here. I was vulnerable to Morghulis, I think, a couple of times, and I'm thinking at this point that my opponent isn't playing it. Stopping my chamber with Pyromancer's Cache. So this is one of the cards that is not implemented on the Iron Throne, so you need to trigger it manually. And another rarely played card, Sir Amory Lorch, is that how it's pronounced? Not sure. Just informing my opponent here that I intend to draw, because obviously he can cancel it with Treachery, but it needs to be done manually. Yeah, and that's definitely a good one here for me. So well happy with seeing that Iron Throne and the dupe. And there is another character now that can just get power passively. Just calculating if there is a chance I can still lose dominance before triggering that encampment. But if I don't need it, then sometimes I can decide just to leave it standing. And privilege position to cancel something if needed, but I would have preferred to keep it here, because Tommen stops my unopposed power, but as you can see, it makes no difference, because my opponent immediately goes for the intrigue challenge here, and that's going to get rid of my last card. Yeah, my ravens are safe here with Summerhall. For instance, something like a surprise nightmares on Summerhall would be really damaging if it discarded my 2 ravens here. And even that Pyromancer's Cache could have been placed on Summerhall, for instance, to try to get rid of my ravens. That would have stopped my power gain, but my opponent here is not really that strong in the power challenge. Maybe with Tyrion stealth, yeah, he could get past Robert and then discard my ravens. But then obviously the chamber takes some power instead. So just making sure I get that renown with Robert on defense. And now here is where I need to make the calculations every time with Winter Festival. So going from 7 to something close to victory. So the plot gets me to 9, then dominance is 10, the 2 ravens are 12, chamber is not available. I could get 13 with the infiltrator if I used its ability here. And then what do you do? from 13 to 15. Heads on spikes gets you there, but at this point I no longer have knowledge of my opponent's hand, I don't think. Getting power claim would get me even closer, but don't have any way of doing that, so I'm just trying to get an additional character knelt for my opponent here. So 24 minutes in, I think I lost the first one in something like 19 minutes. That was not me conceding early, it was generally my opponent getting to 15 power. So that's 12, and I can keep this guy knelt if I choose the low cost characters, even on my opponent's side. Or I could go for Gregor and Tywin again. Yeah, 13, so just playing Winter Festival. And if I can win dominance, that would be impossible to stop. But it's not guaranteed, of course, even with the throne. Tywin and Gregor have some huge strengths, though. I think winning dominance is easier by keeping them knelt. So no way to win with heads on spikes now. Try my luck. Opponent drew a couple of random cards, so no way of telling how many characters are in hand anyway. So obvious play just to get the second Winter Festival. And this now is an interesting one because I can keep all of my board except Robert, or I can keep Robert and one other character, but that character I think would need to be the Red Priest. So my opponent wouldn't get Cersei back. And yeah, without Edric, dominance is not secure, and then without the White Ravens, I might not have enough to win this round. That was my thinking. And my opponent going for 3 characters. Still that Tommen that potentially stops me. Yeah, but only 4 gold for my opponent, so I don't think anything really big can come into play here, so nothing to overcome the Iron Throne. And Unfortunately for my opponent, Lancel is blocked because there are 2 lords, and now even 3 in play. And here I was thinking whether to trigger that chamber for an additional card. I only have 2 in hand, so I was thinking maybe I get something useful. No, go for treachery this time, but just making sure. Another option was to wait with this, because after the intrigue claim I could have drawn it then to stop Tommen when it was my turn to attack. But that actually worked out quite nicely, because Alistair gets an additional card now. And if I didn't win this round, I was feeling really horrible with that board against potentially for Snow of Winter. And now at least I have 1 character. Yeah, but this is now too much, too many characters, and I was sure now that my opponent wouldn't be able to stop me winning with Winter Festival and Dominance. And I even got enough characters to stop the Rains trigger, I think. I was thinking whether to keep this for Tommen or just cancel it, because it was looking like my opponent had no solution if I cancelled it. Didn't want to give him a chance to trigger Rains. Six with 1 stealth, but it's not enough. Even if something like Widow's Wail was in hand, I was just going to defend this with 4. And I think that potential Rains trigger was the last hope for my opponent here. Yep, and now need to think about this. I could just pass here and that would be it. So yeah, very favorable. Got what I needed. Well, actually waited a bit for the turn, but I was able to play around not having it by with Edric mostly. So that was fortunate. And then my opponent didn't get the cancels, only 1 treachery. Was not enough on this occasion to get past Robert, and as you can see, the Harris was the reset of choice, and that's the one I like the most, probably because my army of small characters can survive it pretty well. So the other game that was still being played here was I think Tamás with the Night's Watch against Francesco with Martell, and I didn't switch to it immediately, but I did get some footage before it ended, so we can have a look at that as well. And here we are. So this is round 5, about just short of half the game still left to be played according to the timer. And yeah, we see the 2 resets being revealed right now, so they're being resolved. As you can see, Francesco only has 1 other plot left after this, and he has the city plot line, including a city besieged, which usually you see at the gates festival and city of spiders. And then he has an additional one here, and on the other side we see Morgulis revealed at the moment, and these 2 for the realm plots are the new inclusion to Tamás's deck, and I'm guessing, well, the wall is a stronghold, so basically if you have the wall, that works as a 4 gold plot, but as you can see on the board, he also has great ranging, which is another card that this can reduce. And yeah, much better. Now to commentate on yeah, the boards were pretty huge there. So Tamás has 2 plots remaining because obviously Francesco with Behest is 1 plot ahead. And yeah, both players with a handful of cards, good economy as well, and I think Tamás has his win condition basically set up here. He has the wall, and I'm guessing enough characters to defend it, and the Iron Throne as well. While Francesco playing the Knights agenda with Martell is something I haven't really seen in a tournament yet. And I'm guessing here that Tourney for the King is an option, or maybe it's just using the usual Martell tricks, trying to win once you get the used plots high enough for stuff like Duran's game. But guessing not. So I didn't watch this one too closely originally. I was just trying to get some short break before my next game. But yeah, this one I think, yeah, this well, this one was worth watching because I was going to play the winner of this one. So maybe I should have paid a little more attention. But it's I've played Tamás many times before, and I think at this point we all know pretty much what his deck is like. No secrets really, although interesting to see the new cards, the plot and the new army being played here. Usually he goes for the small characters just to defend everything, and only Craster and Benjen of the bigger ones. So but I guess it's working for him, because here he is again in the cut. Leading this one as well, 8-1, guessing mostly with dominance in the wall triggers. So Francesco needs some way to close the gap, and the only way I think to do that is to have renown on all the characters, so must be Tourney and or something like the Scorpion Sting, which we've seen in previous tournaments being played in Martell. And of course Duran's game gets 5, but it's not quite enough to catch up with the wall, and then of course his used plots go back to, well, not to 0 because Galtown is in play, but he gets his plots back next round, so that's not something that will work in his favor here. Sunspear takes 1 icon, not quite enough, because Tamás has them all covered, and of course Castle Black is on the board, and the Haunted Forest, 2 Haunted Forests, so getting anything through here is quite a challenge. Even this one attacking with 9 by taking an icon just to get the power claim is might not be enough, I was going to say, because Castle Black and Water Dancer's Sword give just enough strength, but then the Prince's Plan for +6, So at least something here gained for Francesco, and of course to renown as well. He needs more of this really, but unfortunately for him that princess plan is not going to be that strong the following round. And going first, not great against Knights Watch either, because you just give the opponent a chance here to initiate some challenges, which you now are forced to defend, even though there is no claim, simply because the deck is set up and that wall and dominance is just too quick from this point, so you cannot afford to give any unopposed away. And then once Tamás gets even more characters, he defends everything and can initiate challenges back if he goes second. Francesco stuck with his last plot, which must be tourney for the knights, or it could be City of Spiders. Tourney it is, and Tamás has the Harris. Harris and Morghulis, that's we've seen that before from him. I think I've seen Duel as well on one occasion. And the last one, which might not be revealed here, I think could be Duel. Although three plots like that probably too much. Must be something else. I'm not sure. At the Palace of Sorrows is one we've seen a lot from him, or it could be just another draw plot. Guardian Shadows, I'm thinking, is Janos Slint. Could be old Tetrasalt as well. And here, yeah, I remember watching this now. I was thinking that before the wall wins, Francesco needs to play basically 8 knights here and win that military challenge with them. But, well, it's a decent effort anyway. He has a few, but unfortunately Quentin is now knelt. If all 6 could have participated, that would be 6. Gets him to 10, but still not quite enough. Tamás just happy to pass here. He has this game won basically if he does nothing silly, and the threat of Benjen as well just stops that military challenge, because he can just win with his trigger get to 13 and then another 2 for the wall. So at this point I was thinking that I was going to play against this Night's Watch deck for sure, and well, I've played Bara Neil against it several times in the past, and it's an interesting matchup for sure. You can get your pieces, you can get Robert to keep basically the entire board knelt. There is only 1 milk in the Valyrian steel deck. Or you can get Cirilli, trade her on with the Harris or Air, get her off the board and replay her possibly. In decks that had Blackwater Bay that also gets a great draw and you're sure to draw the pieces you need, so you can win, but there is a problem. As you can see here, Tamás has the Iron Throne, and then the battle for dominance against a wall deck is difficult because if you both have the throne, the wall gives everyone +1 strength, and these Nightswatch decks can sometimes, even without the wall, fight you for dominance because they can carry some good gold into the dominance phase in the later rounds once the board is set up. And they're difficult to overcome, so I was definitely worried about my opponent seeing the Iron Throne. Yeah, Francesco just thinking here whether there is maybe not, maybe it's just a connection problem, but yeah, thinking I was going to say whether there is any way to come back. He can survive another round, I guess, by not doing anything. The wall with dominance is 14. If he doesn't trigger Benjen or give any other power away somehow. But then, what do you do next round? Your tourney is gone, so you no longer have a chance to win in a single challenge. Even if he could get some additional knights on the board, like he would need something like 5 or 6 more, I think. Meister Raymond in the dead pile. I wonder what got him. That might have happened just as we joined the game, actually. When Morgulis was revealed, maybe he was used to protect something else. Makes sense. Going for the intrigue challenge. I don't think he can win this one by 5, but even if he could, there is no threat of the last game because the plots have gone back to the blood deck. And even this one, with taking an icon, it's too big an obstacle. And now we will see that final plot unless Francesco concedes here. The pointy end. That's actually decent enough. Thinking about my potential matchup with this, decent enough against my deck, because it can get rid of dupes before Morghulis to make sure an annoying character like Robert is killed. Yeah, so while this one finishes, I can tell you that the Stark players won their games, the other two. So one was played in person in Italy. It was won by Stark Filthy against, I think it was Targaryen Prince, and then the King of Swiss, Argento, also won. I think he played against Martell Wars in the top 8. And let's see what the final attempt here is for Francesco. So he nailed the wall and castle black with his plot. He has 2 claim. 2 claim power can prolong the game, but not going to happen. Just looking at the icons here, military is the one that all of them share, obviously. Knights all have the military icon, so I think that's the plan on the tourney for the king turn, just to go all in on military and not split them into the intrigue and power challenges. And here comes the great ranging. That's a character I'm not happy to see in this deck, because assault is one way to get rid of my summer hall, and yeah, that can get rid of the ravens. But in this particular deck, there is no obvious way to stand it, at least. On defense it can be stood by castle black, but it cannot attack in multiple challenges, and assault only works on attack. Yeah, Sweet Sleep on Craster stops Noble Lineage from doing anything. It can still be attached, but it won't gain the icon. So it gains the icon on the Iron Throne if you attach it after Sweet Sleep, because once Sweet Sleep is attached, it won't check. It won't continuously check if other attachments are attached after it to blank them. So you just have to do it manually. I think most players just take Sweet Sleep back to hand and attach it again, so that it blanks the other attachment. Yeah, so no way to overcome this one, but yeah, congratulations anyway to Francesco for bringing an interesting deck to this tournament. One that we don't see very often, an agenda that competitively isn't that strong usually, but nice result taking this one into the cut. And I'm guessing most of the time the plan to get these knights in a big number on the board and play that tourney for the king is probably what worked for him in the Swiss rounds, but guess we won't know for sure. Actually, there was some streaming from the Swiss rounds, from the in-person games. If you want to watch that, I can put a link in the description. There may be a game by this deck in one of the rounds. time is running out as well, so basically Francesco only has one challenge to turn it around, or one challenges phase, and after that no way back. He stopped the wall this round, so even with 2 claim power to prolong the game, time will expire and there is no way to come back. And tourney was used last as the 7th lot, so that's not coming back, which is interesting. And there are 8 knights on the board now, so that would have been 8 power gained if Francesco could win the military, but even the entire board would struggle against the Night's Watch to push the military through, and then claim happens before Renown does, so Benjamin can be taken for claim. Tamás, as usual, leaving absolutely nothing to chance here. Just properly defending if he can. Stuff coming in from hand and also harder triggers. And he wins. And still he had standing Benjamin. And a 9 strength character to defend the other 2 challenges as well. Yeah. Pretty impressive. So, thanks for joining me for this one, and hopefully you will watch the other 2 rounds as well. So until next time.